It's like that movie. I can't remember the name, but it was about this club where people fought, almost like a fight
First
club.
Wives Club.
Hey, everybody! I'm Michael,
and I'm Janet. I just read "It's So Easy and Other Lies" by Duff McKagan.
Vintage Potter.
Duff McKagan was the original bassist for Guns N' Roses. If you missed episode 3 of the book report, I'm currently obsessed with Guns N' Roses because of a John Jeremiah Sullivan profile of Axl Rose that I read in July. And ever since then, I'm just all about the guns. All about the guns. Here are my favorite things about Duff McKagan. He was in a band called Farts with a Z. He was a pastry chef in Seattle before moving to LA. And by his own account, a very good one. He said, there's a line in the book where he was like, my apple raspberry tart was to die for, or something. You're just like...
That's like the least Guns N' Roses sentence you could possibly... It would be great if that had made it into a song of theirs, you know?
Yeah. Apple raspberry tart. And everybody thinks it's like a euphemism. And it's like, no, It's really about how good Duff's tarts are. The beer in The Simpsons was named after him.
Really?
Because, yes.
I know that.
Because Duff suffered from panic attacks. And he found that doing hard drugs exacerbated that. So while all of his bandmates and all of their friends did heroin, he would just drink more and more and more beer. And so on stage during the shows, Axl started introducing him as Duff the King of Beers. His autobiography has recipes in it. I wrote down he loves his friends. After they got back from the Use Your Illusion tour, Duff's pancreas exploded when he was trying to fill his time so that he didn't, do heroin or coke and drink. He went through this box of financial statements that he'd had in his house since Guns N' Roses got big.
Sure.
And he's like, I've been getting these checks for hundreds of thousands of dollars, but I don't really understand the earnings statements. So he went to a community college and enrolled in intro to finance. He took one of the earnings statements to class, but with all the numbers blacked out so the professor wouldn't know that he was a bazillionaire. So I just love Duff. I just love him to bits.
I've been reading a book called Throne by Kerry Howley, which I believe you were familiar with as well.
Me
Yeah,
too.
There you go. While she was living in Iowa City, she accidentally stumbled into an MMA fight, which is mixed martial arts, like ultimate fighting. She basically becomes obsessed with it to the point where she stops going to class and stops really caring about, getting her graduate degree and really just spends a lot of time following these fighters.
The interesting thing about this book, one of the many interesting things, is that while Kerry Howley did in fact spend a lot of time with these two fighters, in the book that she wrote, the narrator is fiction. She's very similar to Kerry in sort of situation. I think they were both grad students at the University of Iowa. But Kit sort of develops what I would say is an unhealthy obsession with these two guys.
Yeah.
And becomes kind of slavishly devoted to them.
The narrator is kind of an amplification. It's maybe like the id of Kerry Howley or something like that.
Yes.
It's bizarre. It's a really weird book. The relationship that she has with Sean and Eric is you're right, it's very intense.
Her reasons for getting entranced by MMA as an academic are very similar to my fascination with Guns N' Roses. In a world where I get think pieces tweeted at me all day long, sometimes I just want to hear a man scream. Is that so wrong?
I watch football, which is like a ethically, indefensible thing to do these days. And it's a bunch of guys hurting each other, and a lot of them are bad human beings and team owners. But I don't know, it just sort of feels something atavistic, I guess, in me.
There's a disturbing connection that's frequently made between violence and feeling alive. There's a quote in Throne where Eric's brother says, it surprises me how few people ever feel alive. Can I live a non-violent life and still feel alive? I would like to.
Yeah.
On the next episode of the
hope
book
so.
report, Mike and I are just going to beat the shit out of each other.
Hell yeah.
And then report on how alive it makes us feel.
I love books about writers getting obsessed with things.
Yeah.
I love people's weird obsessions. I love them. And
They're the best, yeah.
kind of the weirder, the more counterintuitive, the better, you know? Well, actually, a couple of years ago, someone had sent me, as a joke, this article, and it was emailed me this article, and was like, this guy looks like your twin brother. Are you related? And it's a profile of this MMA fighter named Brendan Schaub. No relation to me, but I think if you find a picture of him online, you'll realize that we are, in fact, twins. He's slightly a little more buff, like he has more time to work on his guns than I do, but
yeah.
I think I might have just hurt my arm trying to flex it.